a significant trading country. Their economies.
You think they're more significant than the United States?
I don't think they're more significant.
We are
but
the
I think
most significant country.
No,
we are the
Scott,
world's
stop with the
superpower.
jingoism.
We are the world's
Let me
superpower.
stop with the jingoism.
Dealing with us is the most important thing.
Stop. Do you think that China?
Quickly, would you be able to cut a trade deal?
I wouldn't. No, let me answer that question. I wouldn't get into this mess in the first place.
I think that's a very good.
You wouldn't try to improve our trading relationship?
No. I would not get into this.
Good to know.
No, Scott. Let me tell you something. Kentucky, my friend, you guys import more.
All due respect to all these other countries making deals, they're small and relatively unimportant. We're the big player in the field, and everybody knows it, and people would rather do business with us than do business with China because
elections, and we're just not really patient. I mean, Americans like to buy cheaper goods. I understand, hell, I like to buy things for cheaper if I can also.
But many years to do this. Similarly, you can't.
Why, by the way?
Well, because it takes years of investment and specialization.
And here's the thing.
The same is true of semiconductors.
Has Trump done that, though? I mean,
in
he's
the last
president.
100 days?
Yeah.
Why hasn't he taken a shovel out to the west and
he's
dug a mine?
the president. He ran.
Hello, everybody. Guys, let's get right into this panel. You won't believe what they're saying about these trade deals and tariffs now. This is incredible. Let's check this out and we'll talk about it.
A gaslighting game of deal or no deal. Last week, Donald Trump told the country that he's made 200 trade deals. There are currently 0 deals and 187 nations tariffed. And depending on who you ask, there are talks with only about 15 or 20 of them, but no deals yet. It's the president who's getting frustrated when he's asked about the fate of the economy.
Everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us.
That is the exact opposite of what Trump and his administration have been telling America for the last several weeks.
They want to make a deal. We're going to have great deals. I think we're going to make a deal with China.
The phones have been ringing off the hook to make deals.
We're going to make a deal with everybody. Oh, there'll be a trade deal, 100%.
We are moving at Trump speed to ensure these deals are made.
These are tailored, highly tailored deals.
There are multiple deals that are extraordinarily close.
We have a lot of countries coming in. They want to make deals.
He creates his own leverage and negotiates deals better than anyone else.
Right now, countries from all over the world, because of President Trump's leadership, are desperate and dying to make trade deals with the United States.
Again.
And guys, I swear, Trump voters will then say, what deals? Who said anything about a deal? Like, they'll agree with this. No, we don't have to sign deals after. This is unbelievable. 200 deals when there's not even 200 countries. Then we went down to 60. Then we went down to 20, 18, 14. Now Trump is saying we don't have to sign any deals. Unbelievable. And Trump voters are going to eat this up like the little baby birds they are.
0 deals so far. And now Trump says the U.S. doesn't need them at all. And when it comes to China, the biggest trader of them all, despite weeks of Trump saying that the U.S. is already meeting with the Chinese, we apparently got the truth under oath from Trump's Secretary of the Treasury.
There are 18 very important trading relationships. We are currently negotiating with 17 of those trading partners. China, we have not engaged in negotiations with as of yet.
And tonight, CNN got word that China and the U.S. will finally meet for the first time later this week. Bottom line, mixed messages here, whiplash and contradictory claims are leaving Americans, companies, and the entire economy in limbo. So, Jim Sciutto, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Is this chaos or strategic uncertainty? I just want to play real quick what the Treasury Secretary said on Fox tonight about that very question.
In game theory, it's called strategic uncertainty, what you're talking about. Nobody does it better than President Trump.
It is often the case, it feels like, sort of like just explaining Trump's actions after he's done it to try to make everything seem very rational. But what do you think?
Well, listen, the fact is both sides have a lot to lose from this trade war, and they're paying enormous costs. But regardless of what the Trump administration feels about its strength going in, I've been speaking to U.S. diplomats who've been traveling in Asia, speaking to Chinese officials and speaking to Chinese diplomats and others in the region. And their view is that China, in fact, itself feels well positioned, in the words of one diplomat, in this trade war for a few reasons. One, they feel they could stand up to U.S. pressure, respond to it, and outlast it. they built a playbook to respond to trade wars going back to the first Trump administration. And again, I say this with the caveat that China has a lot to lose here, but they believe they can inflict pain on the U.S. in economic terms. And one key piece of leverage from their perspective is rare earths, and rare earths in particular. And there's a particular rare earth that goes into magnets that are essential to electric vehicles, as well as some products from the defense industry. It's called, and I wrote it down here so I pronounce it pretty correctly, it's called dysprosium, one of these very rare earths. Right. But this is one that is so essential to these industries. China knows it, and it knows that by putting restrictions on this particular rare earth, that it inflicts pain on U.S. companies. And I've been told by lobbyists in Washington that U.S. companies that depend on this rare earth are calling the Trump administration and saying, this is sensitive, this could kill our business.
I bet they are. And, you know, the big difference is that we have a pesky thing called elections. And China understands that very well, Michael. So, yeah, they're going to feel some pain, but they also know that the clock is ticking for Trump and Republicans more than it's ticking for Xi Jinping.
And Abby's right. They're just able to withstand more pain. They don't have elections like we do. It's just a completely different country on how they operate and how a lot of the people's mindset is. This country is willing, willing, and have made their people suffer brutally if necessary to achieve their goals. They've been here for thousands of years before the U.S. was ever conceived. They aren't going to go down from a trade war with literally, and I'm not kidding, the dumbest president in history and the future. I can confidently say that I really don't think we'll ever have a less intelligent president unless it's another Trump. It's literally the only way possible.
Have elections, and we're just not really patient. I mean, Americans like to buy cheaper goods. I understand, hell, I like to buy things for cheaper if I can also. But I think, Jim, it makes a case for why we probably shouldn't be so reliant upon China to refine rare earth minerals. Let's just say we get over this issue with tariffs, which I presume we will at some point, hopefully sooner than later. If we were to ever get into a military conflict with China, whether it's in the South Chinese Sea or over Taiwan, and China decides to just embargo all goods to the United States, well, what in the world do we do when we're so reliant upon those minerals for our defense, for our energy, and for other infrastructure needs? And so this worries me. I hope we get over this, but in the long term, we have to do something to figure out a way to refine those minerals here or somewhere else with a partner that's more open to U.S. interests.
Well, I'll tell you who that partner would be: Canada, Denmark, which controls Greenland. But instead, we're fighting with the very people who we actually could make common cause with to stand up to China. And look, the problem is this: we're fighting with all the nations of the world except for Russia, North Korea, Belarus, and Cuba. Everybody else was tariffed. They can do business with each other. We're the ones who are saying you shouldn't do business with us, or we're not going to do business with you unless you bend the knee. And the reality is they have a lot of other trading partners. We are the ones who need to trade with somebody else. And from a geopolitical perspective, you're absolutely right. We are overly reliant on China. But the problem is that because we're overly reliant on China, we cannot blow off the allies who actually do have access to rare earth minerals, like the Canadians and like the Danish. And yet that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, and
guys, I just have to say, this is off topic, I know. But Abby Phillips producers, can you get Michael a taller booster seat? Or change the camera angles? Like, look at that. That just looks bad. He has to look up to talk to her. She's looking. And I just have to say something that little Michael said earlier. And he caught himself and saved himself. When he was like, oh, people are not patient, and, they want cheap stuff. And then he caught himself, oh, I like cheap stuff too, when I can get it. It's just like Batya, the female Scott Jennings, when she said broke people love having 100 cheap dolls instead of 2 high quality dolls, whatever the hell she was saying. This is just elitist attitude. But they'll protect, defend, and coddle the super rich. But everyone else needs to relax and be patient and struggle just a little bit more. Like Michael says. More than you already were before Trump and these stupid, ridiculous tariffs. The economy was slowly, but it was improving. And I'm going to tell you how pathetic these Republican voters can be. I've seen them defend, even in my own comments, defend giving tax cuts to the rich. Because yes, they've been so kind and generous to us, right? Oh, thank you, billionaires, for the tiny droplets of wealth that touch the tips of our tongues, that we're barely able to pay our bills. Oh, thank you, billionaires. How would I ever repay you? There's just this big disconnect from Republican voters that a huge amount of them are poor as F, but they're fed racism and bigotry and cruelty to keep them loyal and motivated, while the pundits, Republicans in power, these YouTubers, are getting rich off feeding you that racism, bigotry-filled, racist red meat. And in return, they know that you'll defend them on anything, even taxing the rich, something so simple. You will never hear Republicans talk about taxing the rich and how we need to close tax loopholes. But you hear all the time how much they despise the homeless. I wonder why that is. Why do you think that is? Republicans out there, do you think they care about you and your broke middle class ass? This is not to make fun of you. I grew up broker than I think just about anyone I've ever met. But it's to wake you up as to what's being done to your already broken minds. But you can start to fix that broken mind if you try and open said mind.
That's kind of my concern, too, is that we built ourselves as a consumption society. And unfortunately, that's not something that we could just correct overnight or correct over a couple of weeks or really even over a couple of years. So it feels like China had this strategy saved in drafts. Like they were waiting to press the button. They were waiting to hit send. Like, we know one day that you guys are going to try to, quote, cash the check, and we're going to be waiting and prepared. And because of the way we've isolated ourselves from other countries, I don't get how they can position this as being strategic.
Well, let me show you the two headlines that caught my attention. China says it's tearing down walls to expand trade alliances amid U.S. standoffs. So they're making deals with other countries to try to protect themselves. And then also India and the U.K. striking a trade deal. So everybody's wheeling and dealing with each other, trying to protect themselves from an over-reliance on the U.S. as a market. And we are doing what?
Well, you played it. Scott Bessent today under oath said we're currently negotiating with 16 of the 17 most important countries, and he'll be meeting with the Chinese this weekend when they all converge in Switzerland. I think dealing with, with all due respect to all these other countries making deals, they're small and relatively unimportant. We're the big player in the field, and everybody knows it, and people would rather do business with us than do business with China because of what Jim just said. They have all these strategies to inflict pain upon you if you don't bend to their will or allow them to break the rules. And so I think when you're dealing with the United States, it's going to take a little bit of time to work out the best deal for us and the best deal for them. But I have a lot of confidence that when push comes to shove and people get right down to it, an alliance, a trading partnership, business dealings with the United States is a heck of a lot better than being reliant on the Chinese because they have seen what they have done to us and everybody else in the world. The decoupling and the isolation of China is a real thing, and, it may be a little painful, but it's necessary.
I want to say that
this smug prick, Scott Jennings, again with this class elitism bullshit. Like, Trump literally punished the world for no reason randomly with these stupid tariffs that helped no one. And the way he talks about smaller countries just is so stupid. They don't understand how the economy works. You know how many small countries there are? It's not hard to see how one of these small countries, another one, is looking at how we treat another small nation and say, maybe we should scale back our business with the U.S. They don't seem to like working with smaller nations. And you don't think China will welcome them with open arms? And we'll get more into that in a moment, but
I mean, you mentioned the word decoupling. Scott Bessent very clearly said, we're not trying to decouple.
We're going to have to on some fronts because of what Michael said. This national security issue.
He said that today. He said, we are not trying to decouple. We need a deal in order for this to work.
We can't decouple today. I mean, you can develop rare earths over time, but not tomorrow. It takes many years to do this. Similarly, you can't.
Why, by the way?
Well, because it takes years of investment and specialization.
And here's the thing.
The same is true of semiconductor chips as well.
In the United States who are trying to mine rare earth minerals right now. My understanding is that there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy you got to go through to do it. I think part of the answer here, you might be right, is that developing this is in our own best interest. But the next step of this could be knocking down all the barriers to moving quickly.
Why hasn't Trump done that, though? I mean,
in the
he's
last
president.
100 days?
Yeah, he's
Why
the
hasn't
first-
he? Why hasn't he
first
taken a
term.
shovel out to the west and
he's
dug a
the
mine?
president. He ran on
I agree, he should.
deregulation.
It's a good
ran
idea.
on getting rid of red tape. The first thing he does is not try to empower the United States' domestic markets, but to impose tariffs. And I mean, you're raising an important point, which is that if there is a barrier to entry in this market, shouldn't that be the number one thing that Donald Trump tries to do, which is to reduce those barriers?
I think it's an important priority for the United States to mine everything we can possibly mine, whether it's coal, rare earth minerals, or anything else, because anytime you're reliant on other countries, especially ones that are our enemy, you are in a bad position. We have allowed this reliance to build up over the years. It will not be done overnight, but it has to be done, even if it's bumpy in the process. I firmly believe it.
Listen, it's a fair point. It does take time. Sad fact is, I mean, if you look, for instance, at dependence on Taiwan, which is an ally, and there has been an effort, enormous investment to try to bring some of that semiconductor manufacturing to this country. But again, that takes years and many billions of dollars to do so. And it's quite similar. It's not just environmental regulations that stand in the way of rare earth mining here. It's investment. It's also cost. It's just going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
And there's a reason our iPhones, I mean, they're fairly expensive, but they would be more expensive if they were made in this country. And that's something that Americans would also have to be comfortable with.
And he also didn't run on that. He didn't run on there's going to be some pain. He ran on I'm lowering everything from day one. So how are you going to now package, well, you guys are just going to have to suck it up to the American people? They don't want to hear that.
And why all the chaos? I mean, why not have a strategy that addresses all of those things, the things that you talked about and you talked about, and do that on the front end as opposed to trying to back your way into it when you've, I mean, effectively, this is Trump having put a gun against his own head and is sort of like he is the one who's created this time pressure for himself.
I mean, one possibility that I think the president could potentially explore as it pertains to a strategy would be similar to what we did with the national highway system. Maybe start now and say, I won't be president by the time we conclude this, but for the next 8 years, I'm going to work with Congress to appropriate the necessary funding to begin the process of building out that manufacturing, to make sure that the investment is there so we can invest in American infrastructure. And again, not being reliant on an adversary. We've seen what China is doing. They fly their jets close to our fighter pilot jets. They get their ships close to our ships.
They send balloons over our country.
I don't know, even if we get over this tariff conflict, Abby, if we can really trust the Chinese to be honest in their dealings with us going forward. And so at some point, if it's not Trump, somebody in this country is going to have to say, we just cannot be reliant on a country that we may be in a military conflict with in the next 10 years.
That's absolutely...
Sure, Michael is right. Finally, he actually says something instead of, oh, the president can do what he wants. You can do that, though, but with you apply strategic pressure on China, especially on these certain products that he mentioned. You don't do this tariff around the whole world in order to, like, you work with the world in order to thwart China's efforts that will eventually hurt them as well if they don't help us. Even if it's on unfavorable terms to the U.S., there are ways to get around that with trade deals, with our allies, to put pressure on China for these certain sectors or industries.
Great strategy, and if you were president, I would hope you would initiate it. The problem is that's not the president we have in the Oval Office right now. The president we have in the Oval Office right now is somebody who shoots first and then asks questions later. And to your point, Scott, I would say, I don't think India, with its over 1 billion people, is an insignificant country for trading purposes. I don't think the UK, and especially the EU, which it's no longer a part of, is an insignificant trading country. Their economy.
You think they're more significant than the United States?
I don't think they're more significant.
We are
but
the
I think
most significant country.
No,
we are the
Scott,
world
stop with the
superpower.
jingoism.
We are the world
Let
superpower.
me stop with the jingoism.
Dealing with us is the most important thing.
Stop. Do you think that China can do just as well with the EU? Do you think that China can do just as well with India?
If I were the EU, I would not want to be reliant. And look what's happened to us. They don't want it.
It's not a question of reliance. It's a question on the fact that everybody is cutting deals with each other. We're not cutting deals with anybody.
We have one thing in the news
No.
tonight. You guys keep saying
they're having discussions with each other.
We're in the middle of talking to 16 countries, according to the Treasury Secretary.
According to the Treasury Secretary, we've been hearing from them for over a month that we're on the cusp. Any day now, any day.
Lying?
No, I'm saying that I've been
He's
hearing.
under oath today.
I'm saying that every deal that we heard about is coming any day now, any day now.
How
any day
quickly
now.
would you be able to cut a trade
How
deal?
quick?
I wonder
No, let me answer that question. I wouldn't get into this mess in the first place.
I think that's a very good.
You wouldn't try to improve our trading
relations? No, I would not get into this.
Scott.
Good to know.
No, Scott, let me tell you something. Kentucky, my friend, you guys import more than any other state in the nation. You want to represent that state in the Senate? You go tell the people of Kentucky why they have to sit there and listen to this nonsense. Their bourbon's about to be tariffed to hell. You guys are about to have no trade with Canada. You're about to lose millions upon tens of millions of dollars just in Ontario province alone with all the stuff that you're not importing there. So why don't you go tell the people of Kentucky?
we have a lot more ahead
I know a little
on
more
the
about
Canada
Kentucky
piece of
politics than
this.
you do.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, they trust the president.
Oh, okay.
They voted for the president, and they're going to let him
I
make the
can't
best
wait.
deals
You
for
tell
them.
them on Christmas. About the
I
people
guess
of
they
Kentucky, how
have no
that's gonna work
choice
out.
but to trust the
Yeah.
president.
Yeah, because you brainwash these people, sadly, into believing that you give a F about them when you clearly don't. And anyways, besides that, Scott Jennings, whenever he makes an argument or an argument is made to him, if I ever get on one of these panels, I'm going to do that. Whenever I make an argument, I'm going to raise my eyebrow, make this stupid face, see how they like it. He's just like, the way he argues like a kid. Do you think you would be able to do a trade deal faster? That's not what she's saying. Like, he's not listening. He's just looking for a comeback at all times. And to me, it's clear at this moment that China seems like the more rational partner. And the world agrees. Even when you come to the presidents, Xi and Trump, who's more irrational than Trump in the world right now? And if you don't think that China is telling countries whatever they need to hear to get these deals done, you're insane. This is an opportunity of a lifetime for them to knock us out as world power, because we just simply have the dumbest president of all time. I wouldn't be surprised if China's doing deals right now and losing money on these deals just to secure them for the long term and squeeze us out. If I were president, that's exactly what I would do. And it's not this super new economic theory genius move to do. It's simple. But to stick the middle finger at the entire world, even our biggest allies, and try to go at this on our own, this is what happens when you are such cultist to someone like Trump. He expects that the countries, the world's nations are just going to bend over for you like the Republican voters do. All Trump voters would ask is, how much should I arch my back while I'm bent over? Sorry, Trump, not everyone is as masochistic as your voters present themselves. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Please leave a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel out, really helps push the message out there. And I'll catch you in the next one.